When we think about the concept of hell, as mentioned in the New Testament of the Bible, it's not just a single idea, but a collection of vivid descriptions and terms that convey the consequences of sin and divine judgment. Understanding these terms is essential for grasping the deeper messages about morality and justice that are central to Christian theology. First up, let's talk about Hades. In the New Testament, this term often parallels the Old Testament's Sheol, which simply refers to the realm of the dead. However, in Jesus' teachings, Hades takes on a more ominous tone. It's portrayed as a temporary holding place where the wicked experience torment. A clear depiction of this can be found in the parable of the rich man and Lazarus in the Gospel of Luke. Luke 16, verses 19 to 31. Here, the rich man finds himself in Hades, suffering in flames and begging for mercy that he cannot receive. Then, there's Gehenna. This term has a geographical hook to it, originally referring to the Valley of Hinnom, a real place outside Jerusalem. Historically, this valley was notorious for its continuous burning fires and its past association with pagan rituals. In the New Testament, Jesus uses Gehenna symbolically to describe the dreadful, eternal consequences of sin. The imagery is vivid and scary, emphasizing unquenchable fire and destruction, as he warns in Matthew chapter 5, verses 29 to 30, where he advises, if a part of your body causes you to sin, it's better to remove it than to have your whole body thrown into Gehenna. We also encounter Tartarus in the New Testament, although it's mentioned just once. In 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4, Tartarus is described as a deep abyss where God has confined the rebellious angels, holding them in chains of darkness until Judgment Day. This reference expands the concept of divine justice, not only to humans, but also to supernatural beings. Understanding these different aspects of hell in the New Testament isn't just about recognizing a place of punishment. Instead, it invites us to see the varied ways the writers of the New Testament, influenced by their cultural backgrounds and languages, approach topics of morality, consequence, and afterlife. The nuanced depiction of hell across different New Testament passages underscores a broader theological message about God's justice and the serious consequences of human sinfulness. It's a complex and layered topic that challenges us to think deeply about how justice and morality are interwoven with the divine narrative in Christian scriptures. In our earlier discussion, we introduced the terms Hades, Gehenna, and Tartarus, used in the New Testament to describe various aspects of the afterlife. Building on that, let's delve deeper into how these terms play out in Christian beliefs about judgment and eternity, particularly focusing on Hades and the lake of fire, as described in the book of Revelation. Hades, as we mentioned, serves as a temporary holding place for the unrighteous souls awaiting the final judgment. This realm, though temporary, is marked by suffering and anticipation. The story of the rich man and Lazarus, found in Luke 16, illustrates this vividly. The rich man, tormented in the flames of Hades, converses with Abraham, expressing his agony and concern for his living brothers. This interaction highlights that Hades is not just a place of punishment, but also one of reflection and ongoing consciousness. Transitioning from Hades, the lake of fire represents the final and permanent outcome for evil. Unlike Hades, the lake of fire, mentioned explicitly in the book of Revelation, serves as the ultimate destination for those deemed irredeemable. This fiery lake is not just a repository of the wicked, but a poignant symbol of eternal separation from God. In exploring the concepts of hell and the lake of fire from Christian theology, it's fascinating to see how these terms are used to describe different aspects of what happens after we die, according to the New Testament. These terms aren't just scary ideas meant to frighten. They carry deep theological significance, representing the consequences of our earthly actions. Let's start by understanding the lake of fire. Mentioned in the book of Revelation, this lake isn't just a body of water, but a symbol of eternal damnation and the ultimate fate for evil. Revelation paints a vivid picture where not just individuals, but embodiments of evil, like the beast, the false prophet, and the devil, are thrown into this fiery lake. For instance, Revelation 20, verse 10 tells us, "And the devil, who deceived them, was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. They will be tormented day and night, forever and ever." This depiction is intense, isn't it? It's meant to show the final and unchangeable fate of all that's evil. The lake of fire serves as a permanent reminder of the severity of eternal separation from God. It's different from other concepts of the afterlife because there's no coming back from it. Once condemned to the lake of fire, it's forever. Now, switching to Hades, the situation is a bit different. Hades, as described in the New Testament, acts as a temporary station for the souls deemed unrighteous. It's not the final stop, but more like a holding area where souls await their final judgment. It's a place of suffering, sure, but it's not eternal. Again, this is illustrated in the story of the rich man and Lazarus in Luke 16, verses 23 to 24, where the rich man cries out, "Father Abraham, have pity on me, and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I am in agony in this fire." Here, Hades is shown as a place of torment, but with an end in sight, the final judgment. It's different from the lake of fire, which is about finality and hopelessness, a concept often referred to as the second death in Revelation. The second death is an eternal state from which there is no relief or escape. Let's think about the occupants of these realms. In Hades, the residents are not just idly suffering. They are in a state of waiting and awareness. They remember their past lives. They feel pain, and they can even engage in conversations, as seen in the dialogue between Abraham and the rich man. This shows that their existence, while painful, is still connected to their former selves. What's particularly interesting is how these souls are aware of what they've left behind. The rich man, even amidst his suffering, shows concern for his brothers still living, asking Abraham to warn them so they might avoid his fate. Luke 16, verse 28. This indicates that those in Hades are not cut off from caring about their earthly ties. The dialogue in Hades highlights an important aspect of Christian teaching. Awareness and memory are part of the torment. The rich man isn't just physically burning. He's tortured by his memories and his knowledge of what could have been. It's a powerful reminder that our actions have long-reaching consequences, extending even into the afterlife. Shifting back to the lake of fire, this destination is reserved for those whose names are not written in the book of life, as stated in Revelation 20, verse 15. Anyone whose name was not found written in the book of life was thrown into the lake of fire. This is the final sorting, the ultimate separation of good from evil, where final judgments are passed. Understanding these differences is crucial. While both Hades and the lake of fire represent aspects of divine judgment and consequence, they cater to different stages of the eschatological process. In Christian belief, hell, Hades, is temporary and corrective, a place of waiting and suffering with an end point in sight. The lake of fire, on the other hand, is permanent and final, the ultimate manifestation of divine justice, where evil is eternally quarantined. These teachings on hell and the lake of fire are not just about fear. They offer a complex view of justice, consequence, and the hope of redemption through right action and faith. They remind believers of the stakes involved in moral and ethical living, highlighting the profound impact of our choices. Continuing our discussion on the complex and vivid imagery of the afterlife as depicted in Christian theology, particularly through the lens of Revelation, let's delve deeper into the nature and occupants of the lake of fire. This discussion builds on our understanding of hell and Hades, focusing on the ultimate destination of eternal punishment. Revelation 19:20 provides a startling and insightful look into the first occupants of the lake of fire, the Antichrist and the false prophet. These figures are not just any sinners. They are emblematic of profound evil. The text describes how these two, having deceived many through false miracles and leading them to idolatry, are thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur. This act of immediate judgment, bypassing the great white throne judgment, underscores the severity of their offenses. What makes this particular judgment so significant is that it deviates from the norm. Typically, souls are judged at the great white throne as described in Revelation 20, verses 11 to 15. But for the beast and the false prophet, there is no trial or waiting period. Their fate is sealed instantly, a direct consignment to eternal torment, reflecting the magnitude of their evil deeds. Further exploration into Revelation reveals more about who else will find their final fate in the lake of fire. Aside from the Antichrist and the false prophet, Revelation 20, verse 14, mentions a dramatic and symbolic act where death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This passage isn't just about adding more occupants to the lake. It signifies the total abolition of death and the intermediate state represented by Hades. It's a profound statement about the finality and completeness of God's judgment. The eternal nature of the lake of fire is starkly contrasted with the temporary role of Hades. While Hades serves as a holding place for the unrighteous until the final judgment, the lake of fire is their unending destination. It's described as the second death, a permanent state of existence from which there is no return. Again, this is emphasized in Revelation 20, verse 10, where we learn that the devil, who will be cast into the lake of fire at the end of the millennium, will be tormented day and night forever and ever and ever. Turning to Revelation 21, verse 8, the scope of the lake of fire's occupants widens to include not just demonic beings or notorious sinners like the beast and the false prophet, but also anyone whose life was marked by cowardice, faithlessness, detestability, and dishonesty. Here, The text underscores that the lake of fire represents a final sorting, separating those who reject God's offer of salvation from those who accept it. This eternal aspect of the lake of fire serves as a grim reminder of the gravity of our choices on earth. It's a place where the consequences of one's actions are not just temporary, but forever. The description of eternal torment, day and night, forever and ever in Revelation 20:10 isn't just meant to instill fear, but to convey the enduring impact of our moral and spiritual decisions. In light of these scriptures, the lake of fire stands as a testament to the seriousness with which God views sin and rebellion. It's a place designed not just for punishment, but also as a deterrent, a permanent reminder of the consequences of turning away from the path of righteousness. Thus, the teachings about the lake of fire are not only about punishment, but also about justice and the restoration of a moral order. They reinforce the idea that ultimate justice prevails and that evil, death, and sin have no place in the new eternal order God will establish. In conclusion, the discussions on hell, Hades, and the lake of fire are crucial for understanding Christian eschatology. They provide a comprehensive picture of how divine justice is executed and how it impacts the afterlife. Reflecting on these concepts encourages a deeper consideration of our life choices and their everlasting implications.